Hi guys, welcome everyone. Vera here, and today I'm going to show you how to paint our awesome love messenger. So here he is. He is pretty cool. A little bit on a darker side here, but pretty awesome. All those deep reds. It's very cool and interesting technique that I personally love the look of. So hopefully you guys feel the same. Let's go through all our supplies to make sure we have everything that we need for today. First thing you're going to need is a pre-sketched canvas. Now, how do you pre-sketch a canvas and where do you find the outline? The outline is in the description of this video and also in comments. It's a downloadable Dropbox link, so just click on it. It will open an image and then you print it. And then how I transferred my outline and how I usually transfer my outline onto the canvas is I print it on a home printer. So this is just a printout. And then do you see I tuck it in? So let me show you. I'll take it out of here. Hopefully. So I printed it on just a home printer and then I trimmed the edges. So I trim all the edges right to the black line because I don't need the edge. And it also makes it a bit more manageable to kind of tuck it in on inside the canvas. And then I flip it and I tuck it all the way into the canvas as you saw how it was before. And then I put all of this when it's tucked into the canvas, printed side towards the canvas. I put it over the light source, such as window or door or something that light shines through. And then I take a pencil and I outline it. So this is how I personally transfer the outline because I find that this method works for me with having a home printer at home. It's just easy to just print out one little paper in black and white. And I don't need to have any additional supplies, but also I know some people use transferring paper, so you're welcome to use that too if you have one at home or if you have access to it. You will still need a printer with a transferring paper, by the way, but you're welcome to use transferring paper if you would like. And if you, let's say you're doing this over not a canvas, but let's say mixed media paper or acrylic paper, then you can actually, it's easier. You don't even need a printer if you're doing it on a paper, which you're welcome to, by the way. You don't have to have canvas. We prefer canvases. I personally prefer canvases, but you can use mixed media paper just as well. Nothing wrong with that, or acrylic paper. So you put your paper over. How to do it without printer is basically you find something, a device with a large screen. So either a computer or laptop or even a large screen tablet, and you open this image on that large screen device. And then you put your paper right over the device and you just crank up the brightness on your device. And then you take a pencil and you outline, because again, the device will shine the light. It's almost like skipping the part of printing. It's having the image and the light shining through the image already right away. And you just put your paper over it and you outline. So that's how you can do it through just whatever large screen you may have. That's how you transfer the image. Hopefully this covers that and makes it easy to understand. And then let's move on to our actual painting supplies. So we're going to need acrylic paint. We use primary colors only. If you've done any tutorials with us, it's a very standard set. Nothing changed like ever, which is black, white, plus red, yellow, and blue. For this particular painting, it doesn't really matter which blue you use. I use the colder blue, so I use phthalo blue. So colder blues are phthalo blue and primary blue, and the only difference between that blue or any other blue is the tone of your shirt. So if you want to have your shirt different color, you don't even have to have blue. You can just use whatever color you want for your shirt. For the red and yellow, for this particular painting, it doesn't matter what shades of red and yellow you have. So totally up to you, just whatever shades you may have, you can use any shades. We're not going to be doing mixing as far as purples or any other tricky colors. All the mixing here is very simple and it can be done with any shades of those colors. So whatever colors you have, they will work. Brushes. We always recommend having a couple different brushes, so we always recommend having at least 3, large, medium, and small. And large one for the larger areas such as background, medium for the medium areas such as hat maybe, and majority of the areas actually I would consider medium on this painting. And the small one for fine details, such as some details on a beard, hand maybe, the face, so all the smaller elements. For my painting today, I'm gonna use a large one, the pointy rounded one, but it doesn't matter at all. If you all you have a square, great. I'm pretty sure when I originally made it, I actually used square brush, so square will totally work. For my medium brush, I'm gonna go with square, only because when I originally made it, I did use square. And do you see all those brush strokes have a bit of an edge to them, right? They have a little bit of a square edge. So just to stay true to how I originally created this painting, I'm gonna use square, but it doesn't matter at all. Rounded brush will work just as well, and you might actually find it easier. I just like the little bit of edginess to my brush strokes. That's why I use square brush. I prefer square brush in most cases, just because it gives it a little bit of an edge to your brush stroke. But it is a personal preference. A rounded brush is actually easier to use, and it's a little bit softer. It's going to give you a little bit of a softer brush strokes as well. And small brush always has to be a detailed pointy brush with a pointy tip. So this is you see I dipped it in the water and it looks so nice and pointy. That's what you're looking for. Ideally, if you have them by numbers 0, 00, 1, 2, and so on is a best choice. But really, it doesn't really matter. As long as it has a pointy tip, it will work. All right, and for this painting, we're gonna do a lot of layering here. It's all those deep colors such as background colors and all those deep reds and blues. They're all based on layering. You can't get that depth of color without adding more than one layer, because one layer of coverage just doesn't give you that deep of a tone and that even of a coverage. So if you have a blow dryer, you may want to use it, or you may want to take breaks to just let your painting dry up naturally, and so on. So just a heads up, lots of layering, that's the goal here, and that actually what makes it all work really well is lots of layering. And blow dryer, if you have it, awesome. If you don't have it, not a big deal. All right, you guys, so what I'm gonna start with here, I'm gonna start with a couple of very simple things. So I'm just gonna go first layer on my hat and on my hearts because they're very simple in color, they're just red. So I'm gonna take any brush. Doesn't actually matter at all which brush you wanna use here. I'm gonna go, let's say, with a medium brush. I'm just gonna take straight red, not even gonna mix it with anything because it's just my underlay, right? And I'm gonna color my hat. And my hearts. Or maybe I will mix it. It doesn't matter. Maybe I'll mix it a little bit with yellow, just because you see my red is a little bit on the pinker side when it's not as when it's not laid very thick. It almost looks a little magenta-y. So sometimes I mix it with red just to give it a little bit of that redder undertone. So do you see the difference? This is without yellow, this is with yellow. So it just looks a little more like it has that orangey undertone versus pink undertone. And just go ahead and cover. Don't be afraid to go a little bit outside your lines because the background is going to be much darker, and we can always clean up all those lines on a background layer when we start working on our background. Oh, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone who celebrates. I hope you get to spend this day exactly how you imagined. If you want it Flowers and candies, hope you get that. If you want peace and quiet, hope you get that. If you wanted handmade gifts or cookies or some, just, someone to make you a cup of coffee with love, I hope you get that. And if you wanted to get actually something you really wanted, specific, a particular gift that you wanted, I hope you get that. Or if you just want a quality time with people you love, I hope you get that as well. Whatever that is, however you imagine this day going for you today, I hope that's exactly how it's going. All right, so this is my first layer. It does look on the video vibrant and bright, but still it's not. Do you see, it's quite streaky. It doesn't have the vibrancy yet, even though it is still pretty vibrant color. It's not the coverage that I'm hoping to get in the end, because in the end I'm hoping to get an absolutely solid, beautiful coverage. So it's a good start, but just a start. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to move to my background next, and the background I'm gonna work from light oranges to deeper oranges to red mixed with black to straight black. So it's gonna be a bit of a gradient here. And we're gonna start with yellowy orange color. So I'm gonna scoop some yellow on the side here. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit of red, not too much. I still wanna keep it quite light. But light orange. So do you see, it's like a mixture between yellow and orange. And with this mixture, I'm gonna go right here. And cover a little bit more than what you want to see in the end, because the rest of the colors are gonna overlap. Oh, I forgot one line, you guys. So here, we need to add one line that divides the beard mustache section from the background. So just add it with a pencil. And if you don't have a little heart here, which I didn't have on my sketch, by the way, I just added that quickly as well. So those are two little elements we can add. All right. I'm gonna go right here with my orangey yellow. So that's my orangey yellow. Next one, I'm gonna do a bit more red. So if you still have the same color, you can just add red to it. If not, mix a new one. Again, grab some yellow, some red. This time you just go heavier on red. So do you see, it's more like reddish orange color. And add it right next to your first color and then blend them. Right, same here. So first I'm adding it right next to it. And then I'm blending it into my existing color. So it creates almost like a little gradient. And then I'm gonna go straight red, but again, in my case, straight red, I'm still using a little bit of yellow to add in, just so it doesn't look pink. But it's like, I would say, 90% red, 10% yellow kind of concoction. And then I'm gonna add that again as the next color and blend it in right away. So then visually, you should end up with having that lightish yellowy orange, then red. And I overlap all my colors and I trim them a lot sometimes. So as you notice, I added on my first layer a lot of yellow, but then I was continue as I was going with other colors, I was trimming that. And I will continue doing that with other colors too. I always add more than what I need. So then when I overlap my next color, I can trim the previous color with the next color. That makes sense. So here, do you see, I'm kind of trimming too a little bit, which is all intentional. Because again, the more layers, the more complex and, you know, just interesting it's going to look. Like this has already 3 layers, majority of it. And if your first layer is not dry yet and you feel like it's not doing a good job because it's, you know, you're working on too much wet paint, dry it up first. Help yourself with a blow dryer, or take a small break, whatever works better for you. Like you don't have, there's no need to rush at all. All right. So we added all our reds and now we're gonna start adding reds mixed with black. So now I'm gonna make next color. So again, you can even mix on the same spot. So again, 10% yellow, 90% red is my base, or just, again, and in my case, I'm only mixing in yellow because my red normally comes a little pinker, and that's not the color I'm looking for. In your case, you don't have to. If it doesn't come pinker, you can just use red. It's totally fine. And then I'm gonna grab some black, and I'm gonna add a little bit of black to that. Make sure you don't add too much black because black is very dominant color. Even a little bit will overtake it. So do you see I added maybe the same amount as I had of yellow, and it already looks extremely dark. So that's just what black does. That's why we don't add too much of it. And again, we're gonna continue covering the areas that we haven't covered with this, but also trimming a little bit our previous areas. So do you see? I'm going to the areas that haven't been covered, such as, for example, here, there was nothing there, so I'm covering that with this color. I could technically go all the way up here, because again, the black is easily added on top of this as a next layer, because the more layers, the better. Then I'm going to bring this down, start trimming my previous colors with this as well. So just lightly overlapping, not using too much color. So this is more like a dry brushing. From the darkest corner I'm adding it, and then I'm spreading it towards the lighter corner. Then I'm gonna go back here, cover all the areas that have not been covered yet. And you use whichever brush is comfortable for you. I would say if you want to use multiple brushes, I would say large brush is probably the most comfortable for like larger areas, but then medium brush is more comfortable in for maneuvering between the other elements. But also you can switch to a small brush too. If, for example, you can't reach all those little parts with a medium brush, Small brush is fine. So just switch between brushes as needed. And then again, we're going to start trimming the previous colors. So introducing and like lightly adding that darkness here with the darker color. All right, you guys, that's our first layer, and as I warned you, it doesn't look so good. Totally fine. The only thing we're missing here is black, so you could add black now or you could add black later. It's up to you, but we will be adding second layer, of course, because this is not a good coverage. I think I'm gonna add black right away, but again, on the second layer, it's gonna start firming up and looking a lot better than this. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit of straight black. You can see not mixing with anything at all. And I'm just gonna start adding it right on the top here and blending it into as I go down. So just don't refill your brush or refill your brush with minimum amount of paint as you go down. Do you see? We're introducing it until we blend it fully with our previous color. So again, we're creating this little gradient here. And it doesn't really matter whether your first color or previous color is still wet or dry. It will work either way, it just depends how much paint you're gonna need to use. If your paint dries faster, maybe you used thinner layer previously, then you just need a little less paint, so it's more dry brushing. If your previous layer is still super wet, just you can use a bit more paint because it will blend. So just see for yourself. I would say somewhere in between. It's not too dry, but it's not very wet either. Blend it a little better here. And I'll add black right here on the bottom as well. So all this is going to be straight black. From there, I'm going to dry brush it into this other colors. All right, so that's my first layer on the background. Now, another thing I want to mention right away here for anyone who, just like me, has a lot of appreciation for a finished edge versus a messy edge, now is a good time to cover all your edge in black. Totally optional, you don't have to do it, but I personally really like doing it, and I find that this is the time, this is the moment. So if you want to take a couple extra minutes, feel free to do that, but again, not super necessary. It's not going to affect the front of your painting in any way. It's mostly just going to affect the look of it if and when you hang it on a wall. And of course, that's only for people who are using canvases with the edges. If you're using paper or if you're using a canvas board, it's not really a necessary thing because you probably wouldn't have that much of an edge, if at all. Right, now I'm gonna let it all dry up a little bit longer because it still needs some drying time. And as that's drying, I can work a little bit more on some other elements here. So I can actually add a first layer on my sleeve. I can add a first layer on my beard. I can add a first layer on my envelope. So other areas that I can add a first layer on. So let's start with the sleeve. For the sleeve, I am going to do blue mixed with black for my first layer. So I'm just going to take some blue, tiny smidge of black. So you see it's like a dark jeans color. And with this, I'm literally just going to color it in straight for my first layer. So I'm not reserving spots for my heart and this little red line. You could if you wanted to. I'm just going to add mine on top. I find that it's easier for me to paint them on top versus working around them. But again, it's just a personal preference. If you would rather leave a spot for them, that's totally fine. All right, so that's my first layer there. Now let's go first layer on my beard. So on my beard, I'm literally gonna wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and I'm gonna color in beard and mustache in white completely. And then I'm gonna make a light gray. So I'm gonna scoop some white on the side, a little bit of black. And you can do this with a medium brush or small brush, whatever works for you. I think this should be good. You see it's a light gray, but it's not extremely light because I'm adding it over white, over fresh white. And then I'm gonna add some flecks, do you see? And they blend really well with my white. So we're keeping everything nice and light here. The lighter the better. And the darker ones we're gonna do with different colors and a different brush later. Right now we just need almost like a base for all of that. So see, I added some from the top and from the bottom. If some of your blue, let's say, mixes in, don't worry, it's not a bad thing. Because generally white in nature is a very reflective color. So whenever it comes into contact with something, it does reflect the nearby colors. So in reality, if something is white and there is something blue beside it, it would have somewhat reflect the blue. All right, so that's done. Then I can do first layer on envelope, or you can do it later. It's really up to you because envelope doesn't need many layers. Envelope is actually pretty simple, so maybe we can wait on that. Again, doesn't really matter. Either is fine here. And then we can move on to our red elements and add second layer onto our red elements. So we can go on to our hat, and I'm gonna add second layer of red. So again, just taking my straight red, adding a little bit of yellow, mixing it up. And with this color, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna color in the whole hat, second layer, and you will see it's gonna give it a lot better coverage. So it's gonna look less streaky. It's gonna be a lot more vibrant as well. Just a whole bunch of awesome. You see, I edited. Now, before, I'm not gonna color the red hearts yet. I'm actually gonna add a couple different colors on wet here, and then I'm gonna move to red hearts, and then I will deal with red hearts. So the first color that I'm gonna add is gonna be white. So you can either add straight white if it's still super wet and blend it in, or you take a little bit of your red that you just used, and you add white to it, and then you go over and blend. So either is fine. In my case, I'll still add a little bit of yellow to it because, again, I don't want to have much of a pinker undertone. So you see, just a lighter color or straight white, either is fine. And we're gonna lighten up the section. You see, it's not much different. It's not like a dramatically light color. It's just a little bit lighter. And you don't have to blend it to perfection, or at least I didn't blend it to perfection. I did somewhat blend it. It's not like it's completely unblended, but it's not blended to perfection. I like a little bit of seeing a brush stroke. I like a little bit of messiness here. So on the left side, you can add some right by the edge. You can add some closer to the middle. Either is fine. See, I'm adding some here, maybe a little bit here. So I added that mixture color first. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of straight white too, but just a touch, not a big blob on my brush, just a smidge, because I want it to blend still. This white that you see in the end, that's super vibrant, I'm gonna add later. It's not gonna be added now. Right now, it's that subtle whitish color. And you see, I'm not blending it as much. I like seeing it a little bit on the messier side. All right, I like the look. Now right away we're gonna make red mixed with black and do the same on a darker side. So again, take your, well, I still have a spot from the earlier, right, from the background. So I'll mix there. Again, I'll take some straight red, a little bit of yellow, and some black. Mix them up. It should look like that, like a dark wine color, burgundy color, maybe even dark brown with a reddish undertone. And with this, again, while everything is still wet preferably, we're gonna go right here and we're gonna add some. I'm gonna add some closer to the edge here to almost sort of merge the edge a little bit into the background. And then quite a bit on the inner side here. All right, I don't think I need it anywhere else, but feel free if you feel like you want to add somewhere else, go ahead. And then I'm going to add a bit of straight black here. So do you see it's getting darker, but I do want a bit more of a darkness and intensity in certain areas. So I'm just going to take a tiny smidge of straight black, again, all on wet. If you can, I mean, if it's dries faster, it's totally fine. And I'm going to add some black right here. And in certain areas, I'm going to almost like bring it in, but not too close to the edge. I do want the edge a little bit redder. So not right in the middle, but somewhere right here. And I definitely want a little bit here as well. All right, that's looking pretty good to me. I'm quite happy with this. So I can move on to my hearts now. And I know it still looks a little too messy because the background is messy. The head is supposed to look a little bit on the messier side, but the background, we're gonna work on that a lot more. So I'm gonna move to my hearts and I'm gonna start, it's pretty much the same steps that I just did with my gnome head. So I'm gonna take some red and yellow, mix them up. So it looks like a red with a yellowy orangey undertone. Then I'm gonna cover up my 3 hearts, second layer to give them better coverage. And then again, I'm gonna take, you can either take the mixture of some red and white, or you can take some straight white. It is whatever works best for you guys. I'm gonna start with a mixture of red and white. And we're gonna add some lightness. So again, so this is where I'm kind of being funny with my brush strokes. I do like the edge and messiness. Do you see to my brush strokes? You can't see it too well because it's similar colors in a way. But I like that messiness I like that not fully blendedness. If you're more on, no, I prefer fully blended, go for it. So I added a bit of that. Now I'm gonna add a bit of straight white, just like I did on the note, but just a tiny touch. Do you see my brush is not, doesn't have like a massive blob of it or anything. Just a tiny touch. That white that's super visible will be added later on dry. So right now we're looking for more blended white. And again, I'm gonna take, next one is red mixed with black. And in this color, we're gonna add some darkness to our hearts. Heads up, we are, we have entered into ugly stage of this painting, so if it doesn't look good, that's okay, that's normal. It will get there, I promise. It's just a stage that you have to make it through. All right, so I added some of this dark color, and now again, just like on a gnome, I'm gonna add on a hat, I'm gonna add a smidge of black, so tiny, tiny smidge of straight black. And again, I don't want to add it right to the edge because I do want my edge a bit more glowy. So I'm gonna add it close to the edge, but not right at the edge. So I still have some glow. And again, once we darken our background again, it's gonna have a lot more contrast around it, so your hearts will read better. And with that final white, that's gonna really make it pop. So for right now, if it doesn't pop that well, that's okay. It's part of the process, bear with it. It will get done. All right, guys, so now we're gonna let that dry. And as it's drying, we can move on to our background again. Okay, so we're gonna repeat all the same steps that we did on the background originally, once again. But this time you don't have to go as far with any of the colors because everything is already covered. So again, I'm gonna start with my yellow mixed with red. So I'm gonna scoop some yellow on the side, add a little bit of red. I'm gonna make like that light orange color. And I'm gonna go exactly where it needs to go with this. Again, you don't have to go as far and wide with this time around. Mostly just the areas where it's supposed to be. And notice I added 0 white to it, so I only added the color. Now, another thing I want to mention right away, if you guys don't need second layer, if your first layer looks the way you love it, you can totally skip this. In my case, it doesn't. Do you see this, all this messiness? My paint doesn't do a good coverage from the first try, ever. So, and most acrylic paint doesn't. But if you happen to have a paint that does, then you may not need this. Okay, then I'm gonna add second orange, this orangey orange, the actual that looks like orange. So we're gonna add that. So yeah, see for yourself whether you need it or not. I know for myself, I definitely need it. And the most important thing, do not add any white anywhere. And not in none of those colors, don't add any white basically. All right, straight red. By straight red, again, I mean red with a little bit of yellow because I'm trying I'm only mixing it to give my red slightly different tone. Then red mixed with black. So again, I'm gonna make quite a bit of it. Take some red, some yellow, mix a little bit of black in. Maybe a little bit more black. All right, that looks good. And second layer of that, anywhere where it needs to go. You see it makes your coverage a lot more solid and not as streaky. And deeper and a lot more dense almost. You see the second layer around our hearts really makes them pop a lot more. All right, the rest I'm pretty sure I can just safely go with black at this point. Maybe I'll add a little bit more brown right here. All right, for the black, the rest of the black, I'm just gonna go with my large brush. Of course, I'll blend it into this brown. All right, and our background is done. Doesn't it look gorgeous? I think it really does. I think it looks amazing. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. Our hearts are almost done, our head is almost done. They only have a white highlight left for them. The rest is done and our background is fully done. But now we're gonna move, let's work a little bit more on the sleeve and then we're gonna move to a skin tone. So for our sleeve, this time I'm gonna do something a little different. So I'm gonna do two different colors. I'm gonna take some blue, straight blue, and a little bit of white, a tiny smidge of white. And if you want to give it some different undertone, you can add either a little bit of red to give it more like a purple undertone or a little bit of yellow to give it a slightly greener undertone. It's totally up to you. I think for me personally, just blue and white, not making anything too complicated is fine. And then I'm going to add it right here to the upper part of the sleeve. And from the opposite side, I'm literally going to use straight black. So I'm just going to take black. I'm going to add a little line on the other side. And then from there, I'm going to flick it up. You see now I have a little gradient with lighter being up and darker being on the bottom. But now right away I'm going to take my small brush and I'll take a little bit of black and I'll also add it from the top down. So just a couple little, what almost looks like folds, right? And then I'm going to take a little, while all of this is still wet, a little bit of white, just a tiny smidge on my medium brush. Just a little bit. And on wet, I'm going to add some highlight on white here because I do want it to blend into my blues and black colors. And it's going to make it like grayish blue. Just going to add a little bit highlight. So basically you use more like a dry brush technique, but using just a tiny touch of white that's really rubbed into the bristles of your brush. And you highlight it all on white. See, it just makes it pop. All right, and the sleeve is done for now. We're gonna let it dry. And as that's drying, we can move on to our skin tones because those are the areas that we haven't touched yet at all. So we may as well work a little bit on them. And another area that we haven't touched yet at all that we might want to work even before skin tones is the envelope. And just the reason why, because this hand is above the envelope, so we may as well start on the envelope. So once we move on to the hand, we don't need to work around it as much. So for the envelope, I'm gonna wash off my brush really well, dab it off on a paper towel, and I'm gonna take straight white. And with straight white, I'm gonna paint right over the whole envelope. All right, so the whole envelope I painted with white. Now I'm gonna take some light gray. So I'm gonna scoop some white on the side, add a little bit of black to it, not a massive amount, to make a fairly light gray. And right under where envelope closes, I'm gonna blend in some light gray. And you can also add some underneath the hand too, because there will be shadow from the hand. Then I'm washing my brush, dabbing it off on a paper towel and just cleaning it up a little bit. Blending it a little bit more. Alright, so that's my backdrop on the envelope. I'm still gonna add a bit of a darker colors, but those I don't have to add now. I can add them after the hand is done because they will be going around the hand as well. So the backdrop is done. Now we can move to our skin tone color. And just guys, I want to mention something quickly. Clearly, it is self-explanatory that this is a video tutorial, so please feel free to take breaks as many times as needed. But just a reminder, this is a video tutorial, so please feel free to take breaks as many times as needed. You don't have to go at my speed, you don't have to try to keep up. Take breaks whenever needed. You can pause this. I'm not sure you can pause it during premiere, but as soon as it's premiered, you can pause it at any point to give yourself as much time as you want to complete this project. There's no need to do it in one sitting or in one shot. You can take multiple breaks, change your water whenever you feel like it, and so on. All right, so skin tone. We're gonna start by mixing our skin tone. So our skin tone is gonna be on the pinker side. Let's just say that. And I'm gonna use my small brush. So I'm gonna start by taking some white, some yellow, some red, mixing them up into like a nice light peachy color. But I would say slightly on a pinker side versus on a orangey side. So something like that. I think this one is a good color, but let's try it. And then with this color, I'm gonna go ahead here and I'm gonna color in the whole nose. And the cheeks. Now right away, before any of it dries, I'm gonna take some straight white, wash off my brush, of course, dab it off on a paper towel, and take some straight white. And with straight white, I'm gonna add some white right here. And some white in the middle. and I'm gonna blend them. So that is my blending white. I will still add some non-blending white later on dry, but this on wet is a blending white. So I'm just gonna dab off my brush on a paper towel to make sure it doesn't have any extra white left. And I'm gonna go ahead and just blend it into those sections to make them lighter. And with the same peachy color, I'm gonna color in the ear. And I'm gonna take the blending white and do the top. All right, then I'm gonna start darkening up this color. So in my case, I don't have much left of it, so let's start by just making a little more, because I'm kind of running out of it. I didn't mix a whole bunch of it. Okay, so our color is recreated. Now to this color, I'm gonna add just a bit more red. Just red, basically, no more yellow. Just a lot more red, so it looks pinker. Still has the same base, just looks pinker this time. And with this color, I'm gonna go around it and darken it up a bit closer to the edge. I'm gonna water down my paint a touch. Right, and I'm gonna add it just in the middle here. Done, that looks good. And I'm gonna add lips with this too. So basically, just the whole lip section. I'm gonna color it in with this color. And then I'm gonna take some blending white again, just a touch. Make sure you wash your brush in between the colors and dab it off on a paper towel. And I'm gonna add some glare to upper and lower lips. Pretty much like that. Now we're gonna go even redder, or just darker. So let's go darker first. So to this, to this color, before we go redder, I'm gonna take a smidge of black and add it to it. You see it turns into like a grayer version. And with this grayer version, I'm gonna color in the rest, the surroundings here. You can either go right over the eyes or avoid the eyes, that's up to you. Because they're black. Black can be added on top, but just you may lose your lines if you go right over them. So it's up to you whether you want to lose your lines or not. The same color, I'm gonna go a little bit on a nose, just like dry brush it in the spot. So not right at the bottom edge, but a little bit higher. I'm gonna add some right here. Just darkening up a couple spots. A little bit on the lips. And we're gonna go even darker than that, guys. This is just to build up for the darker sections. But before I do that, I wanna add my eyes, because that will determine, help us to determine how dark to go with a dark color. So eyes are literally straight black. And it's gonna look a little creepy right now. And that's okay. All right, so now you know how before we added eyes, it all looked dark, but now that we added eyes, everything actually looks really light. So now we can actually figure out how intense we want to go with the darker color. So this is the color we just used, right? So to the same color, we're going to add more black and more red. Okay, let's try this one. This is what it looks like. Do you see? It's not a full-on black, but it's pretty dark. And with this color, I can add second layer here. Do you know this might even not be dark enough? You need to add a bit more black, so just see for yourself how dark it needs to be there. Okay, this is better. Some underneath here. Just a little bit underneath the nose here, so this darker part. All right, and then I'm gonna go to a redder color. So you can technically even take straight red, or you can take straight red mixed with a tiny touch of white, so it doesn't look so full on red, but either is fine. I think I'm gonna go with literally straight red. And I'm gonna add just a touch of that, just a tiny smidge, where my dark colors connect to the lighter colors on the cheeks and on the nose. I like to soften it up with my finger sometimes. Because again, this is just a reflection, because he's wearing so much red and there's so much red around those cheeks. Those cheeks look glossy, so they will be having that reflection. They will be reflecting the colors. So this is what the red accomplishes here. Some on the lips too, just a little bit. Oh, and I don't think I added the darker color on the lips, so definitely we need to add that. If you want to, you can just water smudge it down, or we can do that later with grays once we move to work on our beard. All right, and I'm gonna add a little bit of straight black here too. We'll go back to eyes, we'll add eyes again. And then if you want to, a little bit of straight black right on the outline here, just to give it a smidge more contrast between the hat and a face. And for example, areas like this, if you want to add a smidge of black, you could, just for a touch of contrast. And now I'm going to add white on the nose. So of course, make sure you wash your brush between the layers always. Tap it off on a paper towel. So this is not mixing white. So everything should be dry-ish for this. So I'm going to add a little bit of white here. Dry brush, so I'm not doing a massive, like a blob of paint on my brush. I'm just taking a little bit and dry brushing it on. I'm going to dry brush some right here and right here. And of course on the lips too. And on the ear. And you know, while we are on white, oh, and on the eyes, of course. So the eyes are going to have a tiny, tiny little glares. You can take just one glare on each eye, you can take two, you can take three. Originally I did three, but honestly, it's up to you. Start with one and see where you want to stop. So let's start with one. So one, two glares, one on each eye. If we put two, I'm gonna put one more beside it, for example. Here's two. If I were to do three, I'll put a third one somewhere on the bottom. So again, totally up to you how many you want to have. All right. And then while we're on white, we might as well add some white on our hat and our hearts and finish them up. So I can grab here my medium brush again and just a little bit of white. Not a ginormous amount. And I'm gonna add some of the glare. I like having my brush strokes a little messier. But again, that's just a personal preference. I like the look of it. You add yours however you want. Same on the hearts. Maybe I'll add a few areas with a bit more white. All right, they look good. If you want to, you can add some white to this sleeve here too. But again, we're not done there yet. We're still going to be adding red. So we may as well reserve it for later. Either is fine. Okay, let's move to our hand here. We're going to do that because I hope you remember which colors we used here. Because it's going to be pretty much the same colors, so maybe you still have some. Or at least we can mix them fresh while the memory is still fresh here. So again, I'm gonna start with that light peachy color, which is yellow, red, and plenty of white. I'm literally just gonna cover in the whole little hand with that. Then I'm gonna take a medium brush and I'm gonna take some white. I'm gonna blend in some white to lighten up the sections of it. So this part up, all this and up is gonna be lighter, and a glare on a finger. Then I'm gonna make a redder color. So to the same color, I'm just gonna add a bit more red. And when this is a color, I'm gonna go into darkening up sections. And then you can use this darkest color or mixture between what we used there and here. So do you remember the darker color? If everything is still super wet, you can use this darker color. If not, you can mix it with that. You can probably use it straight because it will blend anyway because your paint is still super fresh. All right. Now we're gonna let it all dry, and as that's drying, we can work on our beard a little bit. So again, I'm gonna continue with my small brush here. So I'm gonna make my medium gray. I'm gonna scoop some white on the side. I'm gonna add some black to it. I'll say around medium is good. And with this color, I'm gonna start adding lines on the top a little bit. Some around here. So all those hairy textures. Try not to get them on your envelope. Some from the top, some from the bottom. Some right here. And a beard. Some from right under the lip. And some from the bottom up. And then we're gonna go darker. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more black. Oh, that turned out to be not a little bit, that turned out to be a lot more. So let some white too. We'll make like a dark gray. This looks good. And with this, we'll add it in a couple areas. So certain sections are gonna be darker. So I'll add a little bit of that in the darker sections. Definitely under the lips here. And anything closer to the edge to add a bit more contrast. And of course from the bottom up as well. And then you can even add a little bit of black. So right here, for example, to merge it to a hand, just a tiny smidge of black. All right, I think that's the only place. Well, maybe a little bit of black here, but optional. All right. And I can, while I'm working on grays, I can add to them to my envelope. So I can take the same dark gray and literally just add it right here underneath this. And then I take my brush, wash it off, dab it off on a paper towel. And with a clean, somewhat wet brush, I almost like a watercolor blend it into the background. And the same thing I'm gonna do around the hand, because the hand casts the shadow, so we need to add that shadow. So add the shadow, wash your brush, dab it off on a paper towel so it doesn't have too much like a river of water or a little lake of water. It still has decent amount to water blended into the background. See? Now it has a beautiful shadow. And then I'm going to take just a tiny touch of black, and I'm actually going to bring some black right here to merge that corner a bit more into the shadow. Maybe a smidge right here. Just like a couple areas for added contrast. All right, and you can smidge it like water blended or not. That is entirely up to you, whether you want to do it or not. And I'm going to add a bit of black right here too, as a shadow from the sleeve falling on my hand. And I will slightly water blend it too. Looks awesome. Okay, a couple little elements that we have left here is the pin that holds all those hearts to our envelope, the details on the envelope, and the heart right here. So I'm going to start with the heart right here. I'm going to take some red, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, and add white this time. Just a little bit of white. And I'm going to add this line. And I'm gonna add my heart. Then right away you can take a little bit of white. You can add it as a highlight on your heart and on your line. Done. And now I'm gonna do the pin and the details. So if you still have a little bit of dark gray, you can do the details in that. Just take a fine brush and just add those little separation lines. Try to make them pretty fine. And then we're gonna add a pin. So the pin, you're gonna start with dark gray as well. I may need to make a little bit more of a dark gray. All right, and I'm gonna add it to my pin. And so where it goes in, and this is where it comes out. Then I'm gonna take a smidge of black. I'm gonna add the darker side to the pin. So on the side of this gray, I'm gonna add a black line. And then I'm gonna add a highlight. So I'm gonna wash my brush again, dab it off on a paper towel, and take straight white. And I'm gonna add a little highlight. And ta-da! Our love messenger is done, and he looks pretty cute. Don't forget to sign it. So the last thing that's left for you is a signature. So you find a good spot and you put your name or your initials or signature or anything else that signifies that this is your piece of artwork that you have created. All right, I'm gonna sign mine. Sign it right here this time. Done. Done, done, and done. Doesn't he look pretty awesome? I really like him. It's creepy little fella with hearts. And of course, feel free to write on the envelope if you're maybe making this as a gift for someone. You can write anything you want on the envelope. Alrighty, you guys. Well, thank you all for joining me today. Remember, this is a video tutorial, so you can come back to it anytime and you can do this all over again. And also, if you want to go back to any section of this painting and work a little bit more on it, please do that. It doesn't mean you have to be done just because there's no more steps left. You're done when you love it. So if you feel like there's something that needs to be added to either hat or the face or the heart or the envelope or any other part, please go back there and add whatever is missing. It doesn't mean that since we did everything in certain order, it has to go in certain order. If you feel like there's just one color or one little tone that's missing, add it. And please share your results with us. We love when you share your results with us because we want to see how they turned out. We want to see what your artwork done with the same tutorial looks like. I will add a link in the description of the video where you can share your results. It's a Facebook group where we encourage everyone who participated to share the results. So please feel free to do that. And if you guys are new to our channel and maybe haven't done many tutorials with us, feel free to check out everything that's coming up. You can check it on YouTube or you can check it on our website. If you go to our website, also the link is also in the description of the video. You can see everything that's scheduled for the next month and all the tutorials that are available on demand and everything else. There's a lot of fun stuff to look through. And of course, many thanks to all of you who tipped in advance without even seeing the tutorial. Thank you guys, you help us keep going, you help us make videos just like this for you. And if you enjoyed this tutorial and you feel like, I would like to tip you, I really liked it. So feel free to do that if you want to. It's not an obligation, it's not something that's expected of you, absolutely not. But if it's just a good way to say thank you, if that's something you feel like doing. And there's a link in the description of the video that you can just click on. It's a PayPal link and it will bring you right to a tip jar, virtual tip jar, and you can leave any tip that feels right to you. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, you guys. Bye.